Good morning, it's Thursday, and someone's pointed out to me that this weekend the clocks go forward. Now, usually, because we've got two young children, this is a source of great grumbling and complaint because it plays havoc with the routine of bedtime and getting up in the morning. But of course, in the current context where there has so much has changed, it suddenly seems totally and utterly irrelevant. And in this house, we've been in the process of trying to come up with new rhythms and new structures that help us make sense of life, stay sane, and do all the things that we need to do. And likewise, I've been thinking about the church and what would be helpful for us. And each Sunday, we're going to try and provide a resource that helps us, even if we're scattered all over the place, to have a shared sense of coming before God, hearing from His Word, and being able to respond in prayer and worship. But I also want things to be in place for the long week in between Sundays. Starters that will get us engaged with Scripture, allowing it to question us as we find ourselves. And the purpose of this video is simply to introduce the theme and to open up the Bible and bring us into the scene that we will be engaged with over the coming weeks in the run-up till Easter. As we read through the Gospels, these written accounts of the life and ministry and teaching of Jesus, we find ourselves moving rapidly from one scene to the next, where Jesus would do something extraordinary, where he would say something that would catch the attention of the crowds, where he would be received with adulation or antagonism. And in John's Gospel, as we come towards the very climax, the great events of Good Friday and Easter Sunday, the action slows right down. There's a complete change in pace as we are brought into the most intimate of settings, an upper room where Jesus was there with his closest friends. And for all their usual intimacy, there's something awkward, unease, a subtext running beneath the surface as Jesus speaks quite candidly about who he is, the nature and character of his ministry, what's going to happen next. And he's greeted with various responses of incredulity, of questions that reveal a lack of understanding. And yet, as we listen carefully to what Jesus says, he is building up those who would follow him. He is holding out promises, words that give hope and a vision for what happens next. And in the coming weeks, in the run-up to Easter, we're going to listen in on these words. We're going to pay attention to who Jesus is. We're going to ask ourselves that great question, who is Jesus Christ for us today? But if we're to make sense of that scene in the upper room, we need to see it in its wider context. And I just want to take a couple of minutes just to see what's come immediately before they got cooped up together so that we can understand what's going on. When Andrew first started to enjoy going to the play park, I noticed how the way he acted and behaved was quite different from some of the other children. You know, you'd see one child throwing themselves off a climbing frame, another little girl swinging wildly from one limb or another, whereas Andrew would very slowly go up the ladder to the top of the slide. He'd pause, he'd stop, he would be taking it all in. You could see him performing his own little risk assessment, and sometimes he would simply go back the way he came or ask for someone to lift him down. Other times he would sit at the very top of the slide and just pause, unsure whether he wanted to go any further. But of course there is a moment as you sit on the precipice, as you allow your weight to lean forward, as you allow gravity to take over, where you pass the point where there can be any further hesitation. You're away, and if you're lucky, Dad is there at the bottom to catch you. And as we come to John's Gospel, and as we reach chapter 12, we find that events reach a point where they take up a terrible momentum of their own, and there's no easy opt-out or sidestepping what's got to come next. There's no fast track from Palm Sunday with the big welcome, the thronging crowds, the excitement, the anticipation, the ladening of expectation upon Jesus, to the happy joy of the empty tomb and Easter morning. Before I say goodbye, I want to leave you with a challenge and an encouragement. The challenge is to read John's Gospel, chapter 12, for yourselves. This is a wonderful chapter, lots going on, and it would really help us all to have that picture of what is happening in the background in our minds as we come to John chapter 13 on Sunday morning. So do that, enjoy it, and be blessed by it. But also an encouragement. Now, these are strange times. For some of us, we're under more pressure and we're more busy and we have less headspace than ever before. But for others, there is more time and more space and a real opportunity to use the time well. And in the middle of John chapter 12, there is a scene where some unnamed Greeks are seeking out Jesus, and they get hold of Philip, one of his disciples, who ropes in Andrew, and then Andrew and Philip go and get Jesus. And they come with this request. They say, "Sir, we want to see Jesus." And my encouragement would be that this is a chance for us to see Jesus for ourselves. Not when the going's easy, but when the going is rough, and to discover the difference that he makes. Anyway, I hope that however your week and your day is shaping up, that you're safe, that you're well, that you know that there are others within the church who are thinking of you and praying for you. And we look forward to seeing each other, whenever that might be. And in the meantime, know God's blessing.